We don't need a title. Here we go. Hi, we're live. All right, perfect. So excited. So hello, everyone. So I'm just going to check and make sure that we're live on the Facebook feed because there's a delay. Yes, we are, because it says so right up here too in the corner of my screen. I am here with Chris Brown today, and we are talking about parenting struggles. And I know that many of you parents out there, and I don't even think it really matters age, does it really, Chris, in terms of like how you can, when you can have a power struggle with your child, because we have different phases of our lives. But power struggles with my power struggles with my little tweens now, and I'm really interested and to share with everyone kind of the not only the skills and tools that I utilize, but the other skills and tools that are available to people out there, because in terms of, and Chris does a specific specialization, but we're going to talk about parenting struggles on a pretty global topic so that we can kind of connect with everybody. But if you're having power struggles with your children, toddler stage, that defiant stage, right? And where we're going at in terms of, why we get into power struggles in the first place. What do they even look like? What do you need to look for in your kids that make you think you need to address things, a little bit deeper? If you're struggling with that, if you've thrown your hands up and just said, I'm done, I can't do this anymore, and you've given up, please don't give up. How that looks like, what we can do, the action steps that you can really take right now that are maybe even simpler than you think. And, what it looks like what's your life going to look like when you put this effort into it, right? Because sometimes we do want to give up because we're tired, we're overwhelmed, we're exhausted. You don't know, we're going to maybe give you some new tips and tools that you haven't heard of yet. And so, Chris, she's a registered holistic nutritionist, but she's also an experienced mom of 3. And so through her own trials and errors of raising children, which is what makes us experts in anything. You don't need any fancy designation in anything, even as a coach, a shaman, or whatever else. You just need experience in life and to be able to help other parents. So it's a village, right? With me?
Oh, yeah.
Are you lagging? Okay, sometimes there's a lag.
I'm lagging a little bit.
A little bit of a lag. So, tell us about your experience, where you come from, like what's your passion behind what it is that you do?
All right. Well, I do have lots of passion. So my experience is when my children were younger, I was going through this, this mom thing. We don't come with the children don't come with manuals. A car comes with manuals. My toaster oven comes with a manual, but children have no manual. So I'm really trying to grasp this whole concept of children. And then, you think they're excelling, they're doing well, they go to school, and all of a sudden, maybe sometimes you see a little bit of inconsistencies or differentials, or the next child comes along and you're like, oh, well, that's normal. There's some civil rivalry, there's some jealousy, okay. And, and of course for me, the next child comes along, right? And wow, and then we're like, the behaviors are progressively getting worse. Nothing's really shifted or changed. And then you start looking at what you're doing. And of course, it kind of, puts in that, oh, what am I doing wrong? Because that's immediately what we think as parents. What am I doing wrong, or how am I failing? Right. That's mindset 101. So as that kind of progressed, surely and behold, my daughter did have ADHD. Mm-hmm. More on ADD, but it's, on the spectrum of all keeping it together now. So anyways, long story short, is there was a lot of behavioral issues. And, I could sit there and feel sorry for myself, which I did for a long period of time. I was definitely a no person. So I sat there and felt sorry for myself. I didn't have a great relationship with her that trickled down to the rest of them. There's an environmental impact that obviously happened. And, fast forward, And I realized I'm not putting her on medications. The behaviors are symptoms and symptoms only. I'm not a bad mom. I'm using the tools I knew when I had. And when I shifted that mindset, and of course, I worked with a coach because not everything you can do on your own, right? Like our beliefs and our behaviors are so ingrained, but they're not an excuse. So we have to kind of delineate between the two. So as I was running through that and the behaviors were going and everything, I was just like, enough's enough. I started switching a few foods. I went back, became a registered holistic nutrition, went back again, became a culinary nutrition expert. I was like, I was on this, right? And coming from the person that was like craft dinner queen, like I couldn't cook anything but craft dinner. So it was a big stretch. But of course, these are big, long years. And during these big, long years, we forget that we have to kind of reset and go forward, right? So long story short is it came from the ADHD path. They no longer have any of these behavioral symptoms. They are squashed. Sure, I might have an occasional like meltdown but I can go, is that blood sugar related or is there an overstimulus of the nervous system? Do you know what I mean? And then I have tools. I see my kids are home, so now you're going to hear them. They have to come in the fridge right when we're doing this, right?
Yeah, me too.
So long story short is that's what happened with me. I learned the behaviors were symptoms, and I learned that between food and gearing, these behavior mapping.
They're even waving. You can come and say hi.
Come and say hi.
Oh, here we are.
Hi, Lee.
This double trouble here? I don't know.
Yeah, the other one's out with dad right now. So they look, okay, guys, pitter patter.
Girls.
So we're just getting some too. Okay.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
See, we needed proof. There you go. She's actually.
Yeah, I do. There's one more. She's out with dad, I promise. But that's exactly it. And I find right now that with all this, the quarantine, the online, and everything like that, when I'm doing these exchanges or the Zooms or anything like that, they feel that there's no boundaries.
Right.
Sometimes because they as well are online.
Yes.
They are schooling and they're doing everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I've really noticed this week, because it's been more this week, because they're winding down in their school, that we need to go back to setting some boundaries for these behaviors, right?
Well, that's really important. Structure is so important for children. It's important for adults too, right? And so I appreciated so much of everything that you said in there, because in my world, and coming from, a coaching background and an NLP background and everything else like that, we program our children. We teach them what we know. And guess what we know? We only know what we know from what our parents taught us, right? Like the manual that comes with children is your mother. That's it, right? This is what I did. This is what I did. And you guys turned out fine. We're like, yeah, sure. That's why we're in therapy, Mom. Thanks so much, right? So, yeah, right? So, when you know better, you do better. So I hope moms out there, it's been tough with the quarantine. So please just be kind to yourself. Give yourself a pat on the back. Like, we're really all just doing the best that we can with the skills and tools that we have. But when you know better, you do better. And you don't know what you don't know. So it's really important to never give up. Never give up on your kids. Never give up on yourself. It's really never hopeless. You're just going to find that you need to do things a little bit differently. You can't feed them craft dinner every day, right? Like Chris learned. Like, they need something else. And I'm not saying you guys out there are just doing that, but there's things that you need to shift and change, not only in your mindset, but there's things you need to shift and change in the action steps, in the food that you give your children, because we know sugar affects children, right? And it's in everything now these days. And so, yes, the responsibility lies on you to read the labels and make sure that they're getting their serving the fruits and vegetables. But if you're not doing it for yourself, you can't just expect that your kids are going to fall in line, because we are leaders. We are the role model. It comes from us first. So when a mom comes to me and says, I need help with my kids, I'm like, okay, well, I don't deal directly with children. I deal with the mom, the parent, as a whole, because we teach our kids. So I teach you the skills and tools, and then you teach them to your kids because you're the most important person in their life. So they do you children do what they say. Just eat broccoli, and then you sit on like they're just like, chips too, right? They're just gonna want what you want to do. So you may be struggling with them too sometimes. And would you agree with this too, Chris? Is that we need to take a step back too, and sometimes just focus on the self-care, focus on our own behavioral issues, focus on, how we're eating, how we're managing things. And then you'll see maybe sometimes that they'll follow suit, right? And so how do you deal with parents in that way too sometimes, Chris?
So for me, absolutely. Hands down, I go through nutrition because obviously my specific and passion and my mission, because I've been through it, is the ADHD, right? So if I don't tackle nutrition, nothing changes. But it's very naive of me to know, and disservice to honestly anybody that I'm going to work with, if I don't do what I call behavior mapping. And through that, it's a combined, little thing. So like you said, the broccoli. Well, if they're not eating the broccoli, there's a reason why they're not eating the broccoli. It goes beyond the I don't want broccoli, right? It's a mindset, it's a belief, it's a shift. And what are they allowed to have? What are you going to do to allow them to have it? They know. Children have this very innate, like, spidey sense that goes, oh, yeah, okay, it's coming. Yeah, breaking point, I win. They have patience. We don't have patience. That's why we yell, we scream, and we act like crazy buffoons, right? Because our patients go from here to here. We also don't have little people problems, so they allow their patients to persevere to get to their goal.
Yeah.
Because everything is a goal. And if we're allowing their goal to be met all the time, then how do we expect the power struggle, the tantrums, the meltdowns, the big emotions, the behaviors, the civil rivaling, anything to dissipate?
Right. And it's so funny how some of those things that you were saying, I was like, power struggles. It doesn't even have to be with me. It could be within each other. It could be within themselves, right?
Absolutely.
And I see that in my daughters. I see it with me sometimes, never with nutrition. I have to say, my kids, I program them really, really early that it's like, it's this or nothing. It's this or starve. So they're good eaters. I have to give them that. But as they are getting older and they're more, they can get into the cupboards on their own. They can get into the fridge on their own. They don't have to ask me for snacks anymore. They can make it themselves. I'm not in control of their food or their diets. They go with their friends. They, one has a bank card and, money in her account. So she might go out for lunch. Like, I don't have that necessarily hands on everything that goes into their mouth. So I can see how I'm not fully on top of their their diet, right? So I can see through the quarantine and, how relaxed and how we're, you know what I mean? And just the confinement and how tempers rise and all that stuff. So it's when you said sibling rivalry, I'm like, oh gosh, it's like, and how much of it has to do with also with the devices where they're like, they're so engaged and then they disconnect from their devices and then they have this other person sitting next to them. They're like, all they do is just fight, right? So what can I do besides diet and nutrition?
Well,
hang their heads together and be like,
well, that's the thing, right? And it's tricky because I know we want to say, stop doing that. Stop picking on your sister, whatever. As soon as you say stop picking on your sister, you have picked a side.
Right.
So then now what? Now you favor. And I'm sure parents hear this. Well, you like so-and-so more, and Johnny's your favorite because you do this. And if your children, like if you have one child that has more behavioral, like regulatory, like inconsistencies, diagnoses or no diagnoses, let me tell you, that child is going to absorb 1,000 times more because they're going to demand it, because it's back to that patience and looking at the thing, right? So it's a behavioral cycle. So when the sisters are going at it and stuff like that, it's at the end of the day, a tool I use is when they're doing that, I say, okay, Kylie, I see you that you're upset. So I validate their feeling because I can't not, right? And I'm not, at that point, there's no side. So I say, I see that you're upset. And your behaviors are displaying that because now I want to delineate it away from their behavior of them being bad. It going, to your sister. What's the goal? Because they have a goal. And most of the time they're like,
right.
they have to now take responsibility for their actions.
I love this. I'm so going to use this on them. What's the goal?
What's the goal? And they're like, meep, you know what I mean? And I find this, basically, here it is. The root cause boils down to where they fit into the family enterprise and what contributions, controls, or independence do they have within that entire dynamic. So in short, really what it means is what connections and importance do they feel? Mm-hmm. When people become very nitpicky or needy or demanding or lack of patience, it's all based on a goal. We just don't see it. We see the behaviors and we're like, we're totally done with this.
Right, because is it part of the nurturing process? And as families evolve together, like how we teach them how to treat us, how to manipulate each other, right? Like, is it part of that too? I feel like it's part of the programming as they grow up. Like they know how to trigger us, they know how to get what they want from us. It's so unconscious. It's so deep ingrained, right?
They're very capable. Mm-hmm. And the thing is when you're in these high behavioral things, we forget that they're capable. Mm-hmm. And then we go into these power struggles because it literally goes to, we tell our kids what to do, how to do, when to do.
Yes.
And they go into no and misbehaviors, enter the power struggle. Mm-hmm. So it also goes back to a parenting style. Mm-hmm. So if somebody's sitting in, which I commonly always say to the girls, are you an ego?
Is that something that you talk to them about too?
I do. I say, are you an ego or are you humble right now?
Ego or humble?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm like, here's the thing, guys. You're an ego or you're humble. And what does ego bring us?
Yeah.
Because I've gone through what ego brings us. And what does humble bring us? And sometimes just by stopping and making them have this conversation by making, you know what I mean? Think about it. I'm in control. I've taken over control of the situation, but I'm getting them from ego because children should not be in ego. They should be in a childlike state all the time. Mm-hmm. So, and sorry, I have you kind of in the corner. So if my eyes keep doing this, it's not, she has a lazy eye.
So, we have some viewers, so we're going to say hi to them right now quickly. If you guys have any specific questions, just throw them out and I'll throw them in somehow.
So anyways, yeah, long story short is I really try and because I can give them short definitions of what an ego is and what it does and how it makes us feel. Mm-hmm. So I say, okay, well, when mommy yells, how does it make you feel? Oh, okay. So mommy's an ego. Mm. So when you're does that make you feel? So, and if you connect the emotion, because kids live on emotion, it's an emotional need. We are not somehow filling their bucket.
Right.
Right. And I'm not big on the bucket thing, but like in the sense of even using that word, but I'm going to use it in this case, just so people understand. But so basically, long story short is how can we fill their bucket? How can we make sure that they feel capable, involved, important, and fit into the family dynamic? And how can we make them take responsibility for their actions? So what is your goal?
Right. And then when you're yelling at them, know that you're an ego because you're trying to control, you're trying to put power on them to try to sort things out to make yourself feel better. Right. Mm-hmm. Which is for me, I do tapping and my kids will be like, Mom, you need to tap. So I'm going to be like, oh, and you should also tell me to check my ego too, because that would be, I'm all open for complete transparency. Like if I'm in my ego, tell me so I could get the hell out of it. I'm totally okay, which is, my own awareness. But for someone else who may not be so open to have their children call you out when you are
It's
not
hard.
in your best self? Why? We call them out when they're not in their best self. So when they're like, you're not fair, you're not this, you're not that, please accept it lovingly and check yourself. Like, it's probable. And what can you do to change it? Like, in that moment when, even my daughter's like, that's not fair. She even said this once, which we had to have this whole conversation. And I think I might revisit it one day. She said, Jessica lives in the Barbie house and I live in the dog house. I was like, what the friggin' what? Like, where did that come from? So it's like, talk about like reshifting whatever was going on at that moment, right? So check yourself as parents. We're not perfect. I know we have no idea half the time what's going on. Everything runs unconscious. So I think that's really important that when you say we're in ego and we're yelling at them, even when we're trying to diffuse the situation, like some of these things that you're saying, which we didn't even talk about before, which is like, wow, this is so awesome, right? It just,
I kind of go all over the place. Work with me.
you know what? How do you really know where it's going to go until it goes there? Validate their feelings and check yourself. Check where you're at too. I think a lot of times children also feed off our energy. I don't know how deep you go into that into your program, but when we're not good, our children are not good. And I know firsthand that when my kids are like, I'm like, okay, where am I being this way in my life right now? Like, am I stressed? Am I distracted? Is it, that time of the month or whatever it is, right? Like, where are my emotions at right now that they're picking up on that I need to maybe have a timeout? We need timeouts too as adults, right? And so for those parents out there right now who are not getting a break from their kids, oh my gosh, I so feel for you. I really, really do. So when we can just take a deep breath and look at ourselves, because we're the leaders, we're the role models in our families. And so, what does it look like? So we had talked about this before, right? In terms of like, so someone who doesn't know how to check themselves, where are they in that no, maybe, yes kind of place? Remember we talked about that before, when you don't know what to do.
Right. Yeah. So I always say that there's like a connection between a spirit and a science, right?
Mm-hmm.
So whether you're religious, spiritual, like evolutionary, I even call it now. I don't know if that's coin. I'm coin phrasing it. Every action has a reaction. Law of physics. That's what's happened. So when you were talking about the environment, what I also do with my girls, if somebody comes down and we're all good, and somebody comes down and they're not so good because, we call it woke up on the wrong side of the bed, whatever. Mm-hmm. I will say to them, do you see how our environment has shifted? So I bring the mindfulness to that. And then they will say to me, Mom, do you see how your behaviors have changed the environment? Mm-hmm. So just to touch on that quick point, because no, we don't like to be called out. And our first reaction as parents until you train yourself is shut up.
How dare you be rude to me?
Don't talk to your mother like that. La 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 la. Because now we have to, like, we need to take control, right? Like, because that's what we do. Like, we're very autocratic.
Yes.
So
I'm learning so much here. Oh my God, I'm gonna not feel guilty about this later. Like, so me. I'm like, who do you think you're talking to? So.
Well, I mean, but don't get me wrong. There are times where we need to take that stance.
Yes.
And I don't infuse all this into my program because it's just too overwhelming. I really tackle nutrition, but what I do is I do coaching calls on this specifically because I know it's a big thing, right?
Right.
The key takeaway here is our children are raised in a democracy now. Mm-hmm. They get to tell their teachers what they want to learn. Oh, I know. They get to decide if a test will not be Friday because they take a vote. How are we all feeling? Do we need to, like, for me as a person that never grew up in this, I'm like, you took a vote for what? Mm-hmm. Do the test, get on with life, right? Mm-hmm. But so we can't run that aristocratic, like hard ego all the time. We can be in it sometimes, but just knowing where our parent style is also helps, right? So okay. So this is how I do it to really get back to what you were saying. and thanks for bearing with me.
No worries. I'm having fun. I'm loving this.
Right?
So,
It's
yeah.
so important for parents just to know that you're not losing it. You just don't have the tools. You need to get the tools is really the long short. So I categorize people into 3 categories. Is what I'm trying to say. So I call them in the no, the yes, and the maybes. So instead of figuring out if you're an autocratic parent, if you're an authoritarian, if you're controlling, if you're compassionate, there's so many parent styles, right? I'm like, are you a yes, or are you a no, or are you a maybe? Because this also is going to tell you whether you're going to get the transformation or even go through transformations that you need to do, right? So, okay. So if people are listening, watching the replay, I don't want you to overthink this. I'm just going to quickly go down into it, right?
Thank you for that.
No tangible circumstances. No, don't validate the answers. Just wholeheartedly pause, take a breath. I'm going to say each statement in that line, and you're going to tell me, for you, because I'm chatting with you, you're going to tell me where you are, okay? So group 1 is no. You've already decided this isn't for me. Okay, so someone might have hopped on to this Zoom. They were like, yep, I have kids, but they're really talking like, this fluff stuff, right? Like, I've tried that, it doesn't work. So instantly, like, we're talking, guys, 20 seconds to 2 minutes, it's not relevant. Okay, so it doesn't relate. It's stupid, it's silly. It can impact my life. Those kind of things, right? I don't see the positive fashion that this can bring out. What else is it? Oh, okay. This is where no people fall into. It's not worth your time. It's too expensive. What will people think? Okay.
Yeah.
The no decision presents itself as a beginning or an introduction after, like, we have a break in exposure. So it's you're in and automatically it's like boom. And you're like, so there's really not a lot of time to think about it. It's a knee-jerk reaction. It's like a car radio. You turn on the car, a radio station kind of pulls up, right? And that's what we program. So think about when you're parenting, do we use these no's, these examples, right? Then we have the yeses. Yay, yeses, right? Slim, let me tell you by percentage. In this group, okay, you're full on yes, right? Or I call them the yesers because they are actionary people. So they need to now become an actionary word, right? They're committed. They've decided that this is the ultimate root of something. They're ready to go. And this isn't committed to ultimate root of saying no. There's avenues, right? They understand that there's an action or there's a goal and they're willing to meet the goal, right? So the wheels hit the road and they are on it. So they're forward momentum. So they've assessed the situation. They know what's going to get them A to B or to C, quickest route possible, right? And the yesers also have gone through maybe transitions before. So they've been in the highs and the lows, and they might still experiencing these, but they don't let these physical attributes stop them, right? These roadblocks are roadblocks. They identify them, they go forward. They want their dream, the passion. They don't make permissions around excuses, why something shouldn't be done. We hear that a lot with kids, right? But, and as us, but they don't do that. They're like, I'm going to jump in, I'm going to do this effective change, and we're going to get past this, right? Then we have the maybes. Oh, the maybes. In this group, you kind of sort of think, maybe sort of kind of, sort of, right? Like, this is what we do, right? So, if you're working with a client, they do a lot of these. And I shouldn't do that because I actually have to name these now. But I think there's 4 now. So I have 3 children and a husband. Oh, I have my own. Anyways, long story short is always looking for alternatives, right? And I don't mean like the natural, like using methods alternatives, but they know that there's more that meets the eye. They toggle frequently between maybe even no and yes, but they're constantly toggling. They don't really come off that fence. Anxiety heightens, overwhelm heightens. They can't see the vision of the yes, right? They know, so someone in my program comes to me and they're like, what can you do? And I'm like, well, I can get your children to stop behaving like that. I can start fueling their brain and I can remove the inflammation. And this is what but because they've been living in the thick of it, it's not even a yes thought, because it's just such an ingrained belief that how can this happen? How can you resolve all my problems, right? So this is the maybe if I can get my partner on board, maybe this is just a phase and everything will go through it. Maybe they'll outgrow it, or maybe in a month, right?
Not the time. Okay, right.
It's not the time, right? So again, if we're looking at anything we do in life, this is a life skill, because this is also trickles down to our kids.
Yeah.
So no matter if you have the ADHD, you're a parent, you're in your work environment, you are one of these, like you have a core belief of one of these, right?
Mhm.
So that this is a dangerous place. Maybe is a very dangerous place.
Yes, you're not done. Means they're not done yet. They're still ready for more pain. They're ready. They're in the thick of it. Oh
and
yeah.
Excuses, and they allow their excuses to stall the progress. Okay, so when in the maybe arrives, another condition is placed. So when they've hit the maybe in another month and the month comes, guess what happens?
Yeah.
Well, now I don't have the money. Or now guess what happens? Oh, well, I see some improvements. It's always that justification in the maybe realm, right?
Yeah.
So completing half the things, dabbling, never fully completing anything, enter failure.
And so, you know what I love about this, breaking this up? So in my world, so, you know, if you're watching this and you kind of are like, yeah, I'm the person that lives in the maybe. So this is where we call what we have like secondary gain, which means you're getting something from your problem, which means that you're either feeding off the need, you're in a victim mentality. This is like, it's, you know, you get something, you're like, oh, poor my child. Like I'm like, so this could go on for a long, long time, which means that eventually you'll get to a yes, because it will just get worse and worse and worse and worse. It's just a matter of, let me tell you right now, like, you know, if nothing changes, nothing changes. So if you're not getting the results right now, if you don't do anything about it right now, it's just going to get worse. And it's going to get to the point where you're going to be really forced to make some really drastic changes that could be a lot simpler if you just be a little bit more open-minded to maybe, you know, something. Right. And so if you think I'm on the nail on the head right now with that kind of, if you're on the maybe, like, either say no or say yes, like, but being on that fence for long periods of time, I think when you're dealing, especially with behavioral issues with your kids, nutritional deficiencies, or whatever it is that you're dealing with, like, let's get to the solution sooner than later, because it's your family, it's your life, it's your livelihood. Like, we want to be happy, healthy, and wealthy here. Like, we don't want to spend our time in pain. And so if you've already been there for a long time, or maybe you're just new, I get if you're new and you're just kind of like, I don't know what's going on, I get that, right? But if you've been in the thick of this for a long time, let this be a sign for you right now that reach out to Chris, please, or to me, or to somebody, like, especially the nutrition. That's a great first start before you tap into all the mindset stuff and like that. Like, I really love that it can be, you know, it's such a foundational piece. And that's enough to take, like, frick, just go buy some broccoli and cook it. Like, that's a great first action step for you to just start to get back on track in lessening your power struggles with your kids. Like, simple. So when they're in that overwhelm, I think, right, is you need to make a basic, simple decision, a basic, simple solution. Like when you said they're in the overwhelm and they're in high anxiety, right? And so what do you do for, like, tell me, I would love to know, like, how long have you been doing this, Chris? Don't age yourself.
I'm thinking,
oh my God, 50 years. Are we kidding?
No, it's funny because what it is I have different milestones, right? So the behavior, 1 point, whatever. But I always go back. I say I never discredit any service. So my eldest daughter is 12. So I'm going to say I've been doing this 12 years, right?
Okay.
But wholeheartedly, full on delivering in service a good, I would say probably 7 years now. in this
Fantastic.
bigger realm. So,
And
but
what's
you're absolutely right.
what's the biggest joy for you when you work with your clients, when you see the results?
Oh, I get more joy when they have these, like, a lot of people don't even see them actually, you know? So I do these check-ins because sometimes the small wins, they don't see. So I like to announce those. And in fact, I'm going to start doing this I have a free Facebook group, and I'm going to start doing this, and I'm going to start putting my client wins in there so people can actually maybe get off the maybes and go into the yes. And they don't have to work with me. I would love to work with them, but I just don't want people on the fence, right? So when somebody tells me their win, it is like my child physically has just brought me this beautiful hug, or whatever. It doesn't have to be anything, or something like, you know, they went and turned on the kettle for me. It's just this non-expected expectation. You know what I mean? And
because it's a process, like it's not going to happen overnight, right? Like, so small wins are super, super important. Like just watching this and admitting and realizing that, yes, I need help I have power struggles with my kid. That's a win. That's yes, you are learning something new. And if you're taking something from this or you're relating to anything that we're saying, let us know, because that's a win too. Even just, I got I wrote them all down, all these wins I got just in the conversation that I had with you, Chris. So this chick knows what she's talking about, people. I'm just saying, okay? And so when I can connect what I do to what somebody does, I'm like, oh my gosh, because you know, I come from things in a very different way, which is fine, which is why I'm bringing all you guys, these professionals, to say, look what's out here, the small little ways that you can make big changes in your life, right? And so before I forget, Chris, throw into the chat right now. I know no one's watching this, but they're watching us live. So maybe we should throw it on the Facebook group. But we have a comment. So if you want to throw it into the Facebook group, she has a gift for us, which is, you know, what she gives to her clients when she's working with them one-on-one. So she's got a gift for us, for you guys. Not sure if the topic of this chat and if sibling related, came into this 10 minutes late. I have a 5-year-old daughter who won't stop scaring and screaming at birds in our yard. I am a bird fan, so think she is doing this for attention. Been going on for 2 weeks. It's becoming an issue, and I don't know how to break the cycle. Do you want to talk on that?
Yeah, I'll take that.
She's yelling at the birds. Stop yelling at the birds.
I know, because they poop everywhere. I want to yell at them too. I get it. I'm right there with your daughter. Okay.
Mom's a bird lover.
Yes. Okay, here we go. This is a power struggle in and about itself. Okay. So let me just quickly say, everything has a beginning and an end. All right. So everyone has a choice. So I love that the mom's going, yep, okay. She keeps screaming at the birds. She knows I love them. So I always go back to say, one, have you asked your daughter why she's screaming at the birds?
Mm-hmm.
We forget that big word, why.
Yeah.
Because now they have to accept responsibility. And for most part, we can actually gauge our children. I'm a very good gauge of, that's why I love when I can get kids on there too. I can go, oh, I can see so much more with everything going on.
Yes.
I'm a great gauge of character that way. So I always say, one, ask your children, because then they feel like they're getting a voice. And remember, that's what they want. They want the voice. So two, I don't doubt that there's probably some interconnection here. So it's about an attention thing. So if the birds fly away, mom has my attention.
Mm.
And as well as, I remember when she was mad at me. So this is a really good way to get in there. Mm-hmm. Right? Kids have memory, mm-hmm. Like elephants. I can't remember what I wore yesterday. My kids can tell me what I wore 6 years ago.
Right.
You know what I mean? So asking why, absolutely. Identifying it. And you know what? They might even tell you, well, I don't like them. Okay, probe again. Why don't you like them? Well, because, oh, and then validate it. Remember, emotional. Yeah, I could see that. Mm-hmm. Well, I really do love them for all these reasons. but you know what, I love you more.
Hmm.
So we could just kind of, and because she's 5, this is why I would do this. I wouldn't do this at a 13-year-old. There would be a way different way that we were going to go about this.
Right. Yes.
But for the 5-year-old, that's what it, and then what I suggest is make 10 minutes a day for her daughter. She said daughter, right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
For her daughter, that is just mommy and daughter time.
Right.
And I guarantee you, try this, even though we're busy, carve it out. If you have to do it before bed, nobody can tell me that 10 minutes before bed that they can't do this. Right? I'm going to challenge them. I'm going to call them out, because now you're a fence sitter or you're a no, and you need to get to yes. Because
I love it. She's calling you out.
I am calling you out. Like, I don't know, if you say shit or get off the pot is kind of what I was going to say.
Off the pot. Yes. You are coming back on my show, Chris.
So long story short, you know what? She's 5. She's testing her boundaries. She doesn't know quite where she fits in. And I know that sounds weird, because what do you mean? You fit in. This is where you are. You're my kid. I love you, whatever. They don't. So they're testing the boundaries. Give them a little bit of latitude, create a special time that's just them. Name it, you know, blend the names together, do something. And you're going to see if you keep it consistent, here's the thing. When you keep it consistent, you will see that dissipate.
Consistency is key, people.
Yeah, man.
And you know what, Nia, reach out to Chris for more, because I mean, she could be saying things and you're being like, yeah, but I already do that, and yeah, but I already do that. So just reach out to her for more specific ways that she can help you. But thank you so much for posting that, and hopefully that was helpful to you. And if, like I said, reach out to her, because I think that it's important. It's important. I'm watching the replay and I can see me going, call them out right now.
Oh, I know the lag.
Delay, right? So, because yeah,
that's the thing. I just wanted to know. So where my niche is the ADD and the ADHD, and I have everything interconnected into there. The post that I can put into the Facebook, or if you have it, we can tag it in there. That lead magnet is specifically around my story, but there's core foods, regardless, that the readers are going to trigger. So they can download that. They can use what they want. If it fits, if it doesn't. I also do some private stuff as well. So if that's something that they want to look into, but at the end of the day, work with somebody. And I love that she noticed at 5 this trigger. A lot of people just, stay out of the ego is basically what I can say to her. And I'll say out of 500,000 words in the entire dictionary, we use can't the most. Right? So if you tell me you can't, then I'm going to say, you're right, I can't help you.
Right.
Right? So out of 500,000 words, why is can't our most prevalent word that we use throughout the day?
That is a 4-letter word in my house. I'd rather hear the F word than the can't word.
Yeah. And call them out. Call your kids out. What do you mean you can't? How can I help you? Because you know they can.
And be prepared to be called out too. We are not perfect. And, and especially with my girls, I'm raising, independent, strong-minded warrior goddesses. They're going to use it against me because that's just what I'm raising.
Like, it's coming back.
Right? I'm like, okay, but I have to be humble enough to say, yeah, okay, yeah, sorry, yeah. Oh, I forgot to tell you, mom's human. And even, trying to not use that excuse too much. But yes, you're right. Call me out. Thank you. I was wrong. I'm sorry. Like, we owe that to our children too, right? So, don't be so hard on yourselves, but be prepared to not just look at them as they're the problem. It comes from us finding the solution to help them. And it means you're going to have to change some behaviors. It means you're going to have to question some things. And that's okay. That's how we grow. So if you're having a lot of power struggles in your house right now, which COVID is happening, right? I'm near the end of it right now, but this was a time for growth. It was time to check yourself, to check your family, check in, what's going on, where you need to do the work. And I love starting with nutrition in anything, because you can do way better on, boosting your energy, making yourself feel better with with some good food, right? And right now we have not been eating very well. I don't know about you in your household, but under stressful times, we tend to go to comfort food and, easy food and, stuff like that. So that's a great place to start. And I really don't think that, even though it's specific for ADD and ADHD, I don't think that anybody who gets that is not going to benefit from it still, right?
Oh gosh, no.
Right.
No. Absolutely. I think it's just, it's so, like, I love it. Just like you love what you do. We don't do this for any other reason, because there's no gain. That's what people forget. There is no gain for us.
Yeah.
For your family to be better.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's really your family to be better. Our gain comes from when you literally do the work.
And you see the results. And
you see the results. And we're like, yes. And then there's one more family closer to where they need to be. Like, that's what really empowers me. And that's what I'm like, whoa, like, and I drive the force, or I get off and they're like, Mom, why are you so happy? And I share my wins, because I don't discount that a client's win is not my win. And why? I'm a bridge. That's what I tell my clients. Transition and transformation. So if you want to get to transformation, you have to start a transition, but you need a bridge.
Yeah.
I'm a bridge. I have the tools, I have the means, I have the resources, and they are refined, and you will get over here, right? It's just a matter of, going and going, oh my God, this family just did this. And my kids get excited.
Yeah.
So when we're going to the power struggles, remember, that's also with your spouse.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
So when we
every facet. Yep.
So guys, when you're even having this power struggle with your spouse, ask them, what is the goal here? What would you like, or actually, I don't always do that. I always say, what would you like me to understand that I might not be understanding right now?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I say, I need 5 before I can entertain this conversation.
I'll teach you how to tap, where you're going to be like, oh my God.
My daughter and I started tapping a few weeks ago. And it's
awesome.
amazing. My eldest daughter, because she's very, she's into all of this. I mean,
yes.
my kids have, I don't want to say they live in a bubble, because they definitely don't, but they live in the 1940s, where they realize that the nutrition, they realize we have to cook our food, and then we realize, so it's like going back to the roots, right? So I'm like, okay, well, how are you feeling? Whatever. And then we start doing stuff to whatever, but she'll be like, hey Mom, can we try this? I found it on the internet. And I'm like, okay.
Tapping.
Google search. I have to learn it. So she really brings me up too, right?
They're going to teach us. They're our teachers. They are our teachers, right? And so thank you so much, Chris, for your time with us. Like, I really, really enjoyed it. Look, we even went way over our time, but oh well.
Sorry.
That's okay. I loved it. And so, reach out to Chris again. We're going to post the lead magnet in there for you guys to download some free resources. And let's end these power struggles and get back to the business of loving each other and loving our families and having fun with each other and stop these struggles, because we can. We just need to figure out how to do that. So thank you.
All right, Laura, you have a fantastic day. If anything pops up.
Don't go anywhere. I'm going to get off the stream. You stay right where
Okay, I'm staying here.
Stay there. But thanks for watching, guys. And in the replay, ask any questions. We'll answer them later.